Welcome to Spectrum's monthly Investor Pulse webinar. I am Spectrum Senior Writer Kent McDill, and I am joined by Senior Consultant Kathy Dordick. Now we want to welcome you to look at our Investor Pulse results, which include the answers we receive on topics that are top of mind for investors outside of their investment intentions. We asked investors about their attitudes towards biometric scanning applications. Many transactions these days require a form of identification beyond a driver's license or a social security number. And with security of financial information a key focus, we asked investors how they feel about certain biometric scanning techniques. Certain financial accounts, including managed accounts, are now requiring biometric scans for access. This chart is actually kind of amusing. A majority of investors are fine with biometric scans for their safety while traveling by plane, and they approve of scans to identify themselves while voting, but only 36% want their shopping experience to require a scan of their fingerprints or eye or face or voice. Don't get in the way of my need to consume. Here we see a list of 6 types of biometric scans and the indication from investors as to which ones they're comfortable with. Everything from the red segment right indicates some level of investor comfort, and a majority of investors are relatively comfortable with fingerprint scans, eye scans, and facial scans. The comfort level is lowest for voice recognition, which seems perhaps less invasive than others, but perhaps it's easier to disguise. Another question we asked involved investors and their ability to check their balances on most of their financial accounts when they want, which is something that's possible these days thanks to the internet. We asked investors how often they check their IRA balances, how often they check the performance of the individual investments within those accounts, and how often they discuss their IRA performance with their advisor. The responses from the pinkish section left indicate at least a monthly check on accounts, but the bottom line shows that less than half of investors go over their IRA investment options with their advisor at least once a month. The red and brown sections on the far right of the chart are those investors who never check and those who check only when they get a statement. Advisors can encourage regular account checks from their clients in order to satisfy any curiosity their investors may have and to encourage conversations about those investments in something if something appears out of line or is performing poorly. I would now like to invite Senior Consultant Kathy Dordick to discuss with you our latest research study, Preferred Sales Approach. Kathy.
So when looking at this study, Spectrum created this to examine how investors want to be approached by advisors and financial providers, as well as to determine what personal qualities an advisor could have that would attract the business of a prospective client. We'll start with the key details about current advisor usage. 2/3 of all investors currently have a primary advisor, and 42% of those who do not have an advisor consider that at least somewhat likely that they will someday acquire a primary financial advisor. Of course, the research into what makes a financial advisor attractive to a first-time user can also be employed for enticing an unsatisfied client to move their accounts. On the next slide, you will see that referrals are the #1 factor for advisors in the discovery of new clients. Segmented by age in this chart, millennials are overwhelmingly finding advisors through referrals from family and friends, while older World War II investors are much more likely than others to have knowledge of a firm that an advisor is associated with prior to discussing an eventual working relationship. Compared to other investors, Gen X investors are more likely to have found an advisor via a web search or by examining information on a provider's website. It's also noteworthy that 11% of millennials found a suitable advisor by watching a video, and 9% began working with an advisor due to a referral from their attorney. While 80% of investors made the first contact with the advisor they currently work with, 20% signed on with an advisor who made the first contact. That 20% includes cold calling, which our research shows is still an effective way to begin a relationship, as long as advisors understand that such a technique is still not going to be effective even a quarter of the time. But the point is, it still works on occasion. The graphic on the right side of this chart indicates that a majority of investors are looking for a firm to work with rather than beginning with the name of an advisor. This is beneficial knowledge for advisors who have the benefit of being associated with a popular firm to use that as part of their promotions. Spectrem asked investors what an advisor can do to seal the deal, so to speak, as they try to attract new clients. The number one process is to gain the trust of the new client. That's hard to do without actually performing any tasks for that client initially. Trust can be built, however, through truthful and thoughtful responses to questions rather than providing boilerplate comments or non-specific responses to inquiries. The second most popular way to attract business is to be knowledgeable in topics the client may not be knowledgeable about. This again will require a conversation to determine what level of knowledge the prospective client has and requires an advisor to balance a need to prove knowledge without being a dismissive know-it-all. Finally, we invite you to visit Spectrem.com and look at our package of research that is available to subscribers in 2020. That includes our newest and ongoing monthly report on investor attitudes towards the upcoming presidential election and its anticipated impact on the American economy and personal finances. While some of the reports are annual studies, which include comparisons from one year to the next, in 2020, we are offering a new study, Retirement Income Trends in a Low Interest Rate Environment, as well as a study that aims to define financial wellness. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful day.